crazy news coming into this weekend. Biden has, in fact, dropped out of the presidential race after a few months of now saying that he would never drop out, that he was going to ride it till the end and defeat Trump. And he has, in fact, endorsed Harris to be the next presidential nominee for the Democrat Party. What this does to the Electoral College map as it stands is phenomenal, and we're going to go over that right now. So first off, we're going to start off with the states that are going to be pretty much like what I just had up. States that are going to be pretty solid for the Democrats. Then we're going to go into the Republicans. Then we're going to move out to the swing states that are going to be more watched this election. No state is a safe state for the Democrats at this point in time. Nothing is really secure. Don't even know who their nominee is. After months of hearing Joe Biden say he was going to run, let's get right into it. Washington really doesn't have that much of a swing. I do think it will be likely. I don't think it will be solid because this news is going to affect everything. The same with Oregon. Looking at all the polls, it's not going to completely bump it down to a tilt state or a likely state. It will be pretty solid, but not once again, not fully solid for the Democrats. Now, moving on to California. While this news will affect most states, California will still be resilient and will still be a solid blue state. Same as Hawaii. Although we've seen a few mishandlings of things happening in Hawaii, it'll still be pretty solid blue. Moving over to the 2nd District of Nebraska. Now, normally this one's pretty solid for Democrats, but with new news, especially in the heart of Nebraska, I think that this bumps this down to a likely, not even. It's going to be very close in the 2nd District of Nebraska, so we're going to leave it right there. As well as Colorado. Once again, this is a state like California. It's not going to be too affected by this news, but it will be affected, so Colorado does fall into the likely as well. Illinois, this state is also going to be very similar to Colorado and Oregon and Washington. I really think it's going to be likely this time around. Now moving on to the East Coast, New York, believe it or not, has been within about 15 points this whole election cycle. So if you add in this news, I think that also bumps it down to a likely state. Vermont actually is not going to be very affected by this news. It's a very blue state through and through. It's always been that way. As well as Connecticut, Delaware, Maryland, DC. DC will be blue for forever. Rhode Island, and Massachusetts. Now we can move on to the solid states for Trump. Utah is going to be solid, as well as Idaho, Wyoming, Montana, North and South Dakota, all of Nebraska except for the 2nd District, Kansas, Oklahoma, Texas, although Texas and I believe Florida will be likely. Just by the percentage, I don't think they're going to be solid quite yet, but they will be extremely probable for President Trump to get. Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, Arizona, Tennessee, South Carolina, Kentucky, West Virginia, Indiana, Missouri, Iowa, and Ohio. Ohio, with the news of J.D. Vance and this news of Kamala Harris, I believe will be solid red, as well as Iowa. And then, with Georgia being a swing state last time around, we're going to wait to talk about that, but North Carolina, I think that just because of the percentage was being a likely red, although extremely probable that Trump is going to get that state. Okay, as well, I forgot about Maine, the 2nd District, no, the 1st District, and Maine as a whole will still probably be very solid for the Democrat Party, although Maine as a whole, I think will be very almost to tilt, but very close, as well as the 2nd District of Maine getting extremely more red this time around, and Alaska. Okay, moving on to the Sun Belt states, we're going to start with Nevada. So, with this news coming out, Nevada was already pretty much swinging in the direction that we wanted it to be, but this is going to just more cement what we were seeing anyway. I'm going to take Arizona here, go to Nevada. So, Trump was already ahead by about 5.8 points. The last poll that they did between Harris and Trump won by 10 points. This is actually going to put Nevada into a likely stance. Not even tilt or anything like that. It's going to be very likely. Same thing with Arizona, as they both have been moving in about the same direction. Arizona has been by about 5 points this whole entire time. Then you take in Harris and you get a 6 point. Not as solid as Nevada was, but extremely likely for Donald Trump, especially with this news coming out. Put it into the likely Republican side. Now, the first one in the Sun Belt that will most likely go for Kamala Harris will be New Mexico. Head over to New Mexico, the polls there. We don't have any polls between Harris and Trump, but the most recent poll done, Biden only won by 1. And then the next most recent was 2, and the one before that was 7. So that margin was thinning a lot. So while I don't know if the Republicans are going to secure that this time around, I do think it is going to be tilt Democrat for now. And moving on to Georgia, this state was the closest state in the 2020 election, but as you can see, this entire cycle, Trump has been up by about 5 points. Now, moving on to the Harris and Trump poll, Trump got up by 10 points, as well as a few other ones down here where Trump had 8 and 7 points as well. This state is now going to get back to where it was in the South, pretty red. Not as red as Texas and Florida and Mississippi, Alabama, and South Carolina, but still extremely red, way different than it was the last time around. Now, surprisingly, we're going to talk about Virginia. Virginia was one state that was pretty solid for Biden the last time around. He won it by 10 points or more. This time around, Biden has been hovering over 1 point over Trump this entire election cycle. A very close race. Moving on to the Harris and Trump polls, where Trump has won all 4 polls within him and Harris by about 1 point or more, all the way up to 4 points. This is crazy information that is most likely going to be Trump and Harris fighting for this state, and that would realistically put Virginia, for the first time in a while, in the tilt category for Republicans, which is insane information that is even possible, but it is there. Moving on to New Jersey, where the Democrats have been having a rough go with Bob Menendez and Biden. We look at the most recent poll between Biden and Trump, where Trump actually won that. But if we look at the average, Biden's actually been winning on average by about 4 points. So we would put that in the tilt Democrat spot. I don't think that the Republicans are going to be able to get that yet, but that's not saying a whole lot considering the new news, and that will be a tilt Democratic state. Moving on to New Hampshire, once again, things weren't looking good for Biden. I don't think it's going to get any better for an unpopular candidate like Kamala Harris. Trump actually won in the most recent poll. It's been a while since any other poll was conducted, about a month or 2. I think that most realistically, Trump almost got this from Hillary Clinton in 2016. It widened a little bit in 2020, but with this new news, I think that realistically, New Hampshire, for the first time in a long time, falls in with the Republicans in a tilt fashion. Very close indeed, and it will be a fun one to watch. Moving on to Pennsylvania. This one is going to be so solid for the Republicans, they can't even believe it. Trump, just barely over the weekend, got a 4, almost 5 point lead over Trump and beats Harris in 2 points and in 7 points a few months ago and 2 points. So he's been up the whole time. The only one he loses to in a direct race is Shapiro. That is it. If you look at all the rest of the polls, Trump has won all the way as far back as we can go. But if Shapiro is in, he does lose, but I do think that Kamala Harris is going to be the nominee. So Trump then wins Pennsylvania by a not tilt but likely margin. Moving on to Michigan, this will be the hardest out of the blue wall to get. Michigan has been a very tight race between Biden and Trump this whole time around. Moving down to the polls where Trump beat Harris very recently by 5 points in this poll, done by a Democrat pollster. And in every other poll that has been done, Trump has actually won, except for all the way back in the beginning of July. So The only one, once again, he loses to is the governor of that state, just like Shapiro in Pennsylvania. But I do not think it will be Governor Whitmer who is the nominee. I think it will be Harris. And therefore, Trump wins the state of Michigan by a tilt margin. Very close this time around. Now, moving on to Wisconsin, I think that this could potentially have the capacity to be greater win for the Republicans than Pennsylvania. Moving down, Trump has the lead by 2.3 on average, but when racing against Harris, he has won by 1 point and then even, but he does have the victory over Biden in every poll except for one, and where Kamala is the less popular candidate between Biden and Kamala, I think that Trump wins that also by a tilt margin, very close. Now, the last state that we're going to talk about, which is a miracle that we're even talking about, is Minnesota, just like New Jersey. This state has been extremely close. Trump was within 2 points of winning it in the 2016 election. Biden widened that margin. But throughout this whole election cycle, we have seen it be extremely close, even with Trump tying Biden and almost winning right here for the past little bit. It has been within 3 points this whole time. Trump won the last poll. It's been pretty even, actually, as we look at the polls here. I think that with this new news of Biden barely fighting for his life with Trump in these polls, that Minnesota, for the first time since before Reagan, goes to the Republicans at a tilt margin. Now, this is an extremely aggressive map for President Trump, and I think that he has the capacity to take not only New Mexico, but with the new news, New Jersey as well, and hold Virginia and New Hampshire and get the whole blue wall, including Minnesota. Let me know if you think this is too aggressive for Trump. I think that this is extremely likely with Kamala Harris as his running opposition in this race, where she is less popular than Joe Biden, which is extremely hard to do at this point in the game. Let me know what you think in the comments, and we'll see how this pans out.